Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be talking about Joe Robe, the TikTok male feminist that actually turned out to be the TikTok predator that was talking to boys 10 years younger than him. Now, Joe Robe here started to come to his hefty TikTok fame back in very late 2020, and then his ultimate TikTok fame spiraled to shit in very mid to late 2021. Now, Joe Robe's content is a lot different than a lot of the people that I've covered on this channel. Joe Robe's content consisted of only talking about women's problems, bashing men, and politics. That's usually like the only three things that he would talk about. Sometimes he would do the occasional dance just to be a little bit quirky and goofy. Now, but before we jump into showing you guys some clips of Joe Robe, I'm going to give you guys a quick little PSA, but this is just my personal opinion, so take what I say here with a grain of salt. I mean, all of what I'm going to say here is kind of up to you and what you believe in. Now, what I'm about to say, I know some people really don't agree with, but this is just my personal opinion. Whenever you see males making content all the time and gaining a lot of popularity, there's a certain type of males that you should watch out for on the internet, and it's usually the ones that make content that is specifically catered to women's problems to make their videos seem relatable to women. Now, I know that usually that can seem only harmless, but there has been so many cases of people like Joe Robe and multiple other individuals on multiple other social media sites whose content is purely catered to women's problems and what they go through in day-to-day life and stuff like that. But you never really know what their true motives is because a lot of them that do make those types of videos turn out to be very, very bad people. I'm just trying to say, be safe in, the creators that you do end up supporting because there's a hefty chance that they turn out to be terrible people. A lot of people like Joe Robe who constantly cater to women's problems will turn out to be very, very terrible people, like the person here, Joe Robe, who used his platform to groom children. I think now we should take a quick look at some of the clips that got Joe Robe a lot of his gaining popularity. So in that last clip I showed you, if you didn't really pay attention to it, it's just him saying that whenever women finally kill all men, can he please be spared while he throws it back for some reason. Just being a rather quirky individual, this is really what puts him above the rest. I'm sure that his parents probably called him their little comedian, but who am I to judge? So right after that video was posted of him throwing it back and being a rather big goofball, someone commented on that video saying, "Bruh, why is this account so anti-men?" And his response was so fucking stupid. It's absolutely insane how dumb this response was, but here it is.
Just imagine being so worried about losing your male privilege that you would call anything that has to do with equality for women anti-men.
Now, I don't know if someone here can educate me in the comment section after I post this video. I'm certain that somebody will eventually, but I don't understand how kill all men equates equality with each other. That really doesn't ring any bells in my head. It doesn't turn any gears. That doesn't make any sense. You're just killing one gender, so the other one will, I guess, be better? I don't really understand that concept. That entire altercation there was rather quirky and silly and just a tad bit goofy with a pinch of wacky. But to be completely honest with you, that's one of the most tame things we're going to be looking at today. Joe Robe here also had a very long, strenuous beef with the vegan teacher. Now, if you don't know who the vegan teacher is, you are probably living under a rock for the past 3 years of your life because she's that one person on the internet that everybody would make fun of, clown on, and hate because she was just that damn annoying. Joe Robe and that vegan teacher had a very long debate and multiple TikToks that spanned over the course of weeks and almost into months, to the point where it just got so damn annoying that it was so drawn out you didn't even want to see what was happening in the next TikTok. But basically, they were arguing over multiple things, like what the definition of veganism is. They were arguing over whether or not animals would consent to being put in a farm and, raised or whatever. I don't know. It was a lot of really fucking stupid points, but I feel like I'm obligated to show it anyway because it was one of the heavy arcs that got Joe Robe his, TikTok fame.
Feminists ready to defend the men as they pile on the death and all the torture of all the other females in the system. Cows, pigs, chickens. You don't give a shit about them, do you? You're also wrong about the definition of mansplaining.
Since the vegan teacher here is talking, I just want to quickly interrupt by telling you all that I'm going to be having sesame chicken from a Chinese restaurant later. That's all.
Here it is according to Wikipedia. And you can look at all of these nice stickers from PETA while I read it. Mansplaining is a pejorative term meaning to comment on or explain something to a woman in a condescending, overconfident, and often inaccurate or oversimplified manner. Author Rebecca Solnit ascribed the phenomenon to a combination of overconfidence and cluelessness, which is exactly what John had. He didn't know the definition, and he's just, like all of you, terrified of veganism and unwilling to change your own habits while pretending you care about the minorities. Be better. Be vegan. Yes. Here come the carnist feminists, ready to defend the men.
So as you can see here, she responded to my friend Ashley's comment. And I have to say, I'm a little offended she didn't respond to my well-thought-out comment with the most number of likes, where I said, LOL. But let's hear how she responds to Ashley saying that I wasn't mansplaining. Roll clip.
You're also wrong about the definition of mansplaining. Here it is according to Wikipedia. And you can look at all of these nice stickers from PETA while I read it. Mansplaining is a pejorative term meaning to comment on or explain something to a woman in a condescending, overconfident, and often inaccurate or oversimplified manner.
Okay, maybe I wasn't accurate. Let's go to the dictionary definition of vegan. A strict vegetarian who consumes no food that comes from animals. Also one who abstains from using animal products. Seems like you were the only person being inaccurate. Bye.
So yeah, that's really the majority of the arc that I wanted to show you. It was just a lot of back and forth, nonsensical, wacky shit that they'd be saying to each other. For some reason, entertaining an argument with someone like that is a little bit beyond me. But I needed to show you guys that in that argument between them because that was ultimately one of the things that made Joe Robe get so damn popular on TikTok. We're talking like 4.3 million on the main account and 1.3 million on the side account popular. That's how famous that this man grew in such a short amount of time due to the fact that he was growing this brand and telling every single person he would call out, even for very small things to the much larger things. And at the end of every single video, he would just go, be better. And he was slowly growing this slogan of constantly calling people out on this app for very small and very big things. One of the worst things that came about from Joe Robe gaining TikTok fame was the fact that he had such a terrible fan base. Joe Robe was a person who would call out people and try to do it in a more or less respectful manner, but sometimes, he really didn't, and the fan base was just terrible. If you didn't agree with what Joe Robe said, or if you were a person that Joe Robe made a video on, that was harassment for a very long time. A lot of very nasty negative hate comments, a lot of very nasty, hateful DMs. That's one of the worst parts about getting into a beef with Joe Robe wasn't the fact that he was smart, witty, or could just, talk about the terrible things you did in a very proper manner. It was the fact that he had these fans that would go out of their way to fucking harass you. The fan base was just so insanely toxic and disgusting that it would ruin any type of person that Joe Robe would talk about. Now I think it's about time that we finally move on to the fact that Joe Robe in very, mid to late 2021 was called out by around 6 different people for grooming them. Joe Robe was an ultimately terrible, manipulative, nasty fucking person who had a bunch of minors in the group chat at the age of 27. And I just want to throw this in here just because I think it's a little bit relevant to this case, but Joe Robe did work in a church as a finance manager. But not only was he a finance manager, he was constantly around kids in that church, not only kids but also Boy Scouts, and this is very, very, very concerning because he was also grooming 17-year-old boys at the age of 27 online. Now, before I show you one of the victims' videos about Joe Robe, I quickly want to mention that there was one victim that stood out to me whenever I was researching this topic. There was someone by the name of Adam who was groomed by Joe Robe. Joe Robe tried to get him to send him multiple various photos. Even Joe Robe sent him nasty, explicit photos while he was at work around children. Now, this person that Joe Robe was trying to manipulate to get him to send pictures to had cerebral palsy. But prior to ever texting him, Joe Robe went out of his way to duet a video of him trying to act like he was his friend and he was a safe person to talk to. You're going to see this with the person named Dylan's video that I'm going to show you that he made on him and his experience with Joe Robe, because Joe Robe is extremely manipulative and will try to make it seem like he's the only friend that you got and the only safe friend that you can speak to.
I have ever met in my life, Joe Robe. Here's a picture of him if you don't know him by his name. John is a disgusting and terrible hypocrite who abuses his platform by using his clout to groom and prey upon underage boys. He has done this to multiple people, including me. John first followed me whenever I had about 30,000 followers and joined my live stream and asked for my Snapchat, so I gave it to him. After Snapchatting for a few weeks, I invited him to a Zoom call with me and my other TikTok friends, which we did daily. After about a week of John joining the Zooms, he asked me if I wanted to get an Airbnb with him on my 18th birthday, which was over 3 months away. At the time, I thought it was a good idea, and initially, it was supposed to be with other people. This is him asking me who we should invite.
You know how we do things around here, so I'm going to read off these messages to you. Joe Robe says, "You've been doxxed." Dylan replies with, "Good." Then Joe Robe says, "Good, deal with it." Then he asks, "So who else we inviting?" Dylan goes, "Not sure, it doesn't matter to me, whoever you want." Joe Robe then responds with, "It's for your birthday though. Bah ha 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 ha." Joe Robe then says, "I'll see if Hannah is interested. Do you care more about the location or the house?" Dylan responds with, "Honestly, anyone would be fine. I'm not that picky. I feel the closer to West Virginia, the better. Probably, like, not across the country." Joe Robe then responds with, "Would you want something a little southern? It's warmer, like south." By the way, I just want to point this out. I mean, it was already apparent, but being 27 years old and plotting the next 3 months just to get alone with a fucking child is insane. Especially when you have a platform of 4.5 million followers and you're premeditatively sitting there just trying to lure a child into an Airbnb with you.
After a few more days, I realized those were not his true intentions. He started to send me links to one-bedroom Airbnbs, and he offered to purchase me alcohol if I went, and this is him talking.
Once again, I'll read the messages off like always. Jorobe says, "Look in the chat. In case we can't find any friends." Dylan says, "I like that one." Jorobe said, "And it's cheap." Dylan then responds with, "It is very cheap, like $100 cheaper than the other places." Jorobe then responds with, "And then we have lots of money to do fun things. But there would only be room for the two of us." Dylan says, "Yeah, that is true, maybe one with like 2 rooms." Jorobe then immediately hits him with a, "I just realized the ocean is going to be fucking freezing, so we don't need to be near the beach." So he obviously immediately deflects Dylan's point about, needing 2 different beds, because he didn't want that to happen. He immediately just deflects it with a completely new topic and conversation. And then he even hits him with the, "But we still get a hot tub, but..."
About the one bedroom, and I was like, could we find one for like 2? That would be better. As you can see, he immediately changed the subject. A little over a week goes by, and then I decide to invite one of my IRL friends to the Zoom, and this is what John sent me. He knew that I did not want to get the Airbnb, so he thought if he invited one of my IRL friends, I would want to go. That's him asking when he was going to turn 18. He continued to ask me about the Airbnb for months until he just finally stopped. During one of the Zooms with all of my TikTok friends, John thought it would be a good idea to have us all take a BDSM score test and send him our results so he could see our kinks. Keep in mind, the youngest was 15 years old and the oldest were 19, and there were only 2 19-year-olds, and everybody else was 17 and below. There were 12 of us. A few months later, in the Zooms, my friends would go into separate FaceTime calls, and it felt like me and John were always left out, and he tried to convince me that they were talking about me and that they weren't my real friends and that he was my only real friend. It worked, and I believed him. A few days later, I got a FaceTime call from all of my friends, and I answered, and in those FaceTime calls, during the Zooms, they were talking about how John was grooming me, and whenever they confronted me with this, I was very defensive. A few hours later, I called back and talked to them, and I finally realized that John was grooming me. I decided to cut John off and not confront him about anything. I didn't say anything for the past 8 months because I thought I was the only one until recently I found out that there are multiple people that John has groomed. John does not deserve to have any type of platform because if he does, he will continue this behavior and will not stop preying on teenagers. He is a disgusting and terrible person.
Shortly after Dylan's video was made, Joe Robe privated every single social media he had, his Twitter, his Insta, his 2 TikTok accounts. Every single one of them was privated, and then right after, like a week maybe, was deleted. And nothing's been heard from him since. Every single person that Joe Robe called out for being a bad person or using bad humor, saying some bad things in dark humor, whatever the fuck you want to call it, eventually turned out that he was far, far worse than them. And those people that he was shaming and harassing on the internet with his, be better values, turned out that they were 10 times better of a person than he was. Now, without further ado, that is going to be the final thing that I'm talking about in today's video. Now, there's one thing I'd like to mention about my channel to the rest of you guys that are still here watching. If you are, thank you. I just wanted to quickly announce that I already announced it on my community post earlier, but I wanted to say it in this video as well. I'm going to try to upload at the very least 26 times in the month of October. I'm aiming for a video every single day almost. I feel like if I was to aim for an upload every single day, that would be a little bit too far-fetched and I just, wouldn't get it done. So I'm aiming for 26 and I do hope that I can get it done. I'm going to really try with the main goal in mind to hopefully hit 80,000 subscribers by the end of this month. So if you like my shit and you want to subscribe, feel free to. If you don't want to, fair enough. Anyway, I'm going to see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys for watching today's video. Hope everybody watching has a good day or a good night, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy spooky month, everybody, and I leave you all with this.